We will speak about the question, how did Hitler see himself? What does he thought about himself? In this time we will focus also on the first part of Walter Langer's landmark study commissioned by the American OSS I spoke about in 1943. And there he addresses also this fundamental question, how did Adolf Hitler see himself? We will follow a little bit also the material you can find in this study, but I will add also some other information or material on my own. There will be a mix. Yeah, Walter Langer, the psychiatrist and psychologist from who is of German origin in the American. He relies on psychoanalytic methods, psychoanalyse in the tradition of Sigmund Freud, and he also uses a lot of testimonies from Hitler's immediate environment. So people who fled to the United States after 1933, there were a lot of them, and there were also a lot of people and guys living somewhere in Switzerland, France, also in the Czechoslovakia and so on, who fled from the regime. And maybe at the beginning were friends and were in the immediate environment of Adolf Hitler, and then let opponents be. Yes, and then so like opponents, they give some statements later. But the question is, and that we will find often this problem, we will see that these people who are later in the exile and speaking about Adolf Hitler, that's also true, for example, for Albert Speer later on, who gave interviews also for the BBC and so on, writing his own memoirs, that they're also a little bit propaganda memoirs from their own perspective. So they want also to write and to speak always in the light of the fact that Adolf Hitler was then like described as a monster from the whole world. And so they have also to write their own stuff a little bit in that light. Yeah, that's we have to have in mind. From the very beginning, Walter Langer, our psychiatrist, notes that Hitler was deeply convinced that he was the greatest man on earth who ever lived. Yeah, not in now, in the time now, but in all time. That's a classic example of a narcissistic pattern. So I think of the classical megaloman, the grandiose narcissist. We know there are different types now. It's a modern thing, and a lot of podcasts they are speaking about this theme, narcissistic. It's like the trauma theme and so on. That's now in vogue, we can say, but it's nothing new. So it's nothing new discovered, but they present it now like something new. So the grandiose narcissist it could be, but in Hitler's we have also a maniac depressive maybe background with Hitler, and when you are in such a maniac phases, you have also like symptoms were very near to this pattern. Narcissistic feelings of self-importance are not in themselves rare. They are found in many who want to emerge from anonymity and rise above the masses. However, this pattern is much more statistically common in people who are in a position of a leader. So we say a boss in a company. You will have statistically more people with such a pattern, like a boss. and also in politicians, because politicians are they who have to present themselves that I'm the best, vote for me. Because politics almost naturally attracts people prone to grandiose self-perceptions. They are speaking about Trump is like the prototype of and so on, but they forget that also all the other politicians they're not so far away from this type, but they are maybe hiding it better. What sets Hitler apart is the fact that his narcissism grew into an absolute conviction. He was convinced of his own historical mission to the point where his own personality became identical with the destiny of Germany. So he makes like a shift. He's really convinced, he's not playing us, that he has a historical mission and is identical with the destiny of the whole people. Walter Langer chronologically reconstructs the development of this self-perception. He speaks about that in the early years after World War I, Hitler acted as an agitator, a drummer, someone, who didn't have any titles. He was almost ascetically modest and had no external signs of power. Yes, he wore no official ranks, insignia, and so on. We also know that in World War One, he refused to take a higher rank. So they proposed him, and he said, "No, I want to be the normal soldier," and so on. Yeah, my little man, I'm one of you. I'm only here like a drummer, presenting himself as an instrument of higher power, rather than an independent figure of authority. In this sense, Hitler identifies himself then, in this process with the biblical prophets. He was often described as the voice crying in the wilderness, paraphrasing the Latin Novum Testamentum, or not, but I'm showing here the Latin version, where we have in John 1:23, "Id ego vox clamantis in deserto." Yeah, I'm the vox clamantis, the crying, I'm the crying voice, vox clamantis in deserto, in the wilderness. Yes. He himself would allude to this dimension of his mission in his speeches. He did not choose his historical role. He did not choose this role. It was the providence, die Vorsehung. The providence chose me. However, in 1924, there was a crucial turning point. After the failed beer hall putsch in 1923, the Hitler-Ludendorff putsch, when Hitler and Ludendorff, or mostly Hitler, tried to seize power like Mussolini did a year before in Rome. He wanted to make the march on Berlin, but it was not successful because the army didn't help him, but was against. There was a trial in München, and Hitler was imprisoned in the Landsberg fortress. There, behind the prison walls, where he had a quite good stay, his self-perception was transformed. According to numerous testimonies, including that of his close associate Rudolf Hess, it was in Landsberg that Hitler ceased to be just an agitator and became something more. He became the Führer. It was Rudolf Hess who first publicly used this title for him, and Hitler accepted it without any resistance. Later on, it was Hess, like to be the inner voice of Adolf Hitler, who almost bewildered fanatical enthusiasm, and who managed later on the mass gathering to convince the masses that Hitler was the Führer. Yeah, we have a scene from the film Triumph des Willens from Leni Riefenstahl 1935. There is a scene when Rudolf Hess opens the Congress, the gathering, and he speaks to the masses. That's a very that really shows this atmosphere, how he presented Adolf Hitler. Let's hear it. The guarantor of victory. You are the guarantor of yeah, you see it. You see it that this is one of the themes. There are also other themes. There are showing the really fanatical, like he presented Adolf Hitler on many other occasions also. That's not the only one. There are other occasions where he presented him even more fanatically, maybe the following. The next thing is even more fanatic, and even I think that is more prototypal for the as I said, the Führer principle or Führer figure, maybe invented by Hess, but propagated by Hess. Let's hear this one. You see, this is another that Hess is speaking about. It is like Hitler became identical with this historical mission, destiny of Germany. Germany is Hitler. Hitler is Germany, and this is you cannot represent it better than Rudolf Hess did it. And I think also inside the Nazi part, this maybe fanatical position of Rudolf Hess was exceptional. Yeah, from then on, also with the help of Rudolf Hess presenting the Führer, and Rudolf Hess was somebody who helped him to be the boss, because it is not so easy. You have also opponents inside the party and so on. And Hitler succeeded through this year from 24 up to 1933 or 1934 with the Röhm Putsch, maybe maybe this was the end point when he seized the power inside the party, inside the Nazi party, because till 1934, there were also other strong men like Röhm and so on. But at the end, he was the only one, and Hess also made his attribute to this. From then on, we see from 1924 the role he ascribes to himself become almost messianic. Several of Hitler's former associates, such as Ernst Hamstengel and Otto Strasser, confirm that his appearance, behavior, and demeanor changed drastically during this period. They note that Hitler, who had previously appeared as a nervous speaker, often stiff and withdrawn in private, began to radiate a different kind of self-confidence. It was as if prison had served as the force of his new political religion, and he himself had emerged from the forge as a prophet and leader.